3, 2, 1. Hey there, Stanford fans. Welcome to the Bootleg Post-Game Report here from a chilly Stanford Stadium in a stadium chilly and pained group. I'm Abeytia here with Jim Rutter. Stanford falls 20-17 to Utah in overtime in a game that felt winnable except for all the demons and all the struggles that Stanford's dealt with all year pretty much showed up tonight.
Right. We didn't have any big surprises one way or the other. I think one thing we might say straight off, teams have somehow effectively managed to take us out of our special teams play. It seems like that has been largely removed from the equation. We've got obviously a tremendous talent in Ty Montgomery. People have figured out, whether it be from these cross-field rugby-style kicks, we're not able to get on them. And with seeing that success in a couple previous games, teams have capitalized on that. And so I look at that only for a team whose offense is struggling. The fact that special teams haven't been able to give us that spark, that energy. And as much as the coaches can say that the team is still working hard and playing with energy, and I'm not really seeing it on the field for the Stanford team we're used to seeing. I understand it. I mean, especially it's got to be frustrating. As frustrating is for the fans, certainly frustrating for the players. We're not seeing the kind of success we're used to. I mean, this game ends at 7-7 in regulation. Defense is playing great. We had opportunities to put this game away.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we need to take note at this point that I think the frustration has reached the coaching staff as well. I'd have to say that was the most openly frustrated I've ever seen David Shaw in a press conference. And to be honest with you, I think it speaks to the fact that, as you said, special teams, offense, this coaching staff seems out of answers at this point.
Well, and it was probably difficult for David. He was, maintaining his composure. I mean, he's a pro. He's been through a lot before. But meanwhile, in the background, we had a representative of our senior leadership in the locker room that was demonstrative and vocal in expressing dissatisfaction with the team's performance. Anyone who thinks that the team is okay with what's going on is wrong. So, you're fighting. You're playing some good teams. I mean, Utah is a top 25 team. They came here needing this win. They played okay. You certainly have to hand it to Nate Orchard, who's been destroying the rest of the conference. He put up another 3.5 sacks today. It looked like it could have been more than that on key downs where we really needed things to happen. And these are large losses in field position that basically took us out of our play calling on those series. So, hats off to that guy being a monster. We had a monster of our own in Henry Anderson, who had a phenomenal game with 3 sacks and making tackles. What can you say? We dropped balls. We had penalties. We fumbled in the Utah territory. And when we were playing at home, you expect to get some momentum plays, and we just had none tonight.
Well, no, and there were opportunities for those momentum plays. I mean, balls put down the field that were catchable. Maybe not easy catches, but certainly they would have been huge catches. And again, you just go back to all the things that you just talked about. It's like that game of whack-a-mole. You drop back and you don't get the pass protection. You get the pass protection, you don't get the throw you need. You get the throw you need, you don't get the catch you need. And that's pretty much been the story of Stanford all year long, where the pieces have yet to exceed the whole.
Well, when the offense isn't working, and we could sit here all night talking about what's been happening on the offensive side of the ball, but we're not getting the other momentum builders. There's nothing from special teams. There really have been no turnovers that have been that post-sudden change excitement that gets guys jumping up and down, ready to get back out on the field. We're making stops. I mean, the other teams are not having a lot of offensive rhythm. We made some fine plays, but it's those extras. Where's the pick six? Where's the blocked kick? Where is the punt return for touchdown? Those have been largely absent in recent games.
Yeah, and you can have the chicken egg debate about those are the plays that fire up a sideline, or are those the plays that come from fired up sidelines? And to me, I think, the team has definitely not stopped playing. They've not given up.
No,
hope.
And they're fighting for the ball. Blake Luters is trying to rip it out. I mean, they understood situational football. They know what they're supposed to do. It's just, boy, when we had a guy open, we didn't get it there, or when it did get there, we're dropping the ball.
And I think there is an air of frustration. I think you can feel it. Certainly we as fans feel it in the seats. But I also think watching this team play, it gets to a point where you're just frustrated because you're convinced you can do a lot better, and it just hasn't happened.
Well, frustration comes from now losing consecutive games, which is something that hasn't really happened in the David Shaw era, and losing a second game at home, which hasn't happened in years, going back to probably the 08 season, I think, maybe.
Yeah.
That we've lost 2 games at home. So, this is not a crowd used to seeing us struggle so much. Even this season, when we struggled to put points on the board, a lot of that was on the road. We found ways to make things happen at home, and so to come here and put up 7 points, I mean, it reminds us a little bit of the dark days of the Tevens era from an offensive production standpoint. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. You got to call a spade a spade. Now, there are still 2 games. This team is filled with veteran players that know how to win. It's very feasible that they could walk into Strawberry Canyon and emerge with a victory against Cal. Cal's defense might be one way of getting healthy as an offense. And the UCLA game, we'll have to see. I mean, right now they're going to be a decided underdog going into that game unless something changes. So Stanford football going in as an underdog, that hasn't really happened very much. So
to be honest,
change in perspective.
Yeah, I mean, and to be honest with you, we were at the time of kickoff, I believe, 10-point favorites today, and that was surprising to say the least to anyone who's watched this team all season long. But I think the approach you said is probably the best way to go, is that basically you focus on next week. So many people want to take what's going on right now and extrapolate it out to what's next year going to be like, and how is that. And for me personally, a huge win or a huge loss next week isn't going to define 2015. It's just going to define next Saturday. And it is big game. And I think that's the approach you have to take if you're the team moving forward. Well,
the reestablishment of some sort of rhythm on offense. So we can always come up with 1 or 2 big plays, but there needs to be a consistent production on offense. And that there were some encouraging signs. There was an increased use of McCaffrey early on. I mean, you look at his yardage tonight. He had 70, 80 yards on
8 carries for 77 yards.
I mean, take that all day long, right? And he had a couple of other nice chain-moving first downs, and he acted as a decoy on a nice Hogan run. I mean, the staff, to their credit, did find some ways to inject him into it, and that wasn't the problem tonight. There were you can second guess some of the play calling. I will not second guess the overtime touchdown. That was a terrific play, throwing back across the grain. So credit where credit's due. They made a great call there. Terrence Alexander had gave up the touchdown in overtime, but he didn't. He got picked up by. It was very nice to see Zach Hoffbauer get in there and pick his teammate up. And boy, he got off the hook. That wasn't what cost us. We went back and we missed another play. But to Utah's credit, they wanted to win this game. They could have. They were, even when they had a chance to grind it out down at the end there. They went for the jugular. And that's that's what you can do when you're a team. I mean, last year the idea that we were embarrassed to lose to Utah last year.
This
Utah is 1 year away on the road at Utah. Somehow we had been having so much success that we considered it a UC Davis loss to lose at Utah, when that's actually a pretty good team, and now they've gotten better, and maybe we're not quite at the same level. So it's amazing what difference a year makes in terms of our attitude and expectations.
Yeah, it is. And again, part of the frustration is that during the course of every game this season, you see these positive signs. I thought the opening drive was spectacularly conceived by the coaching staff. I thought they had an aggressive Utah defense, totally off balance in the first drive. And the second, the overtime touchdown, was a phenomenal play call. But you talked about going for the jugular, and to me, the sequence that is the most questionable in this entire game is the end of the first half. Stanford forces a stop with 2 minutes, allows Utah to run 40 seconds of clock off, gets the ball, and then, so you're saying to yourself, all right, so we're going to go into the locker room. Well, Hogan runs for a first down, but now, because you didn't take any timeouts and weren't thinking that way from the start,
right, limited the options.
There's 31 seconds left in the half.
David's response to that was we didn't get enough yards.
I don't have a response to that response. It was a non-response, basically, because honestly, that was, again, that's the frustration, is just that we seem shocked by success. Like, we seem totally unprepared for it.
Well, what I'm shocked by, I guess, is a decided absence of sense of urgency. I just don't see during this game. We're not acting like we absolutely have to get something done. The pace, the aggressiveness just doesn't seem to be there. I mean, after all, we can't just do business as usual when we're failing to score possession after possession in tight games that this year we haven't been winning. So,
well, no, and again, look at it the exact opposite way, right? Why would we even bother with business as usual at this point? You've reached the point in the season where there's no reason to be conservative.
Yeah.
There's no need to play it safe because of high stakes or anything like that. So without any reason to be aggressive for too much of this game, the team wasn't aggressive, at least offensively.
Well, and let's point to one of the elephants in the room, and it's undeniable from a statistical standpoint. After 3 quarters, we had 54 yards in the air.
Yeah.
Now, whether that's protection breaking down, or our determination to run the football, or Kevin missing some guys, 54 yards after 3 quarters.
It's 2014. I mean, 54 yards passing.
It's almost hard to believe, because we got a guy who's recognized as having the long ball be his strong suit, and yet we just didn't make him happen tonight. And I don't know where to place that blame, other than to say that we must have used up some of our karmic points, because we're certainly not pulling the rabbits out of our hat this year. It's not working in our favor.
And as you said, credit where it's due. Utah's got a legit defensive front, so it wasn't ever going to be easy. However, you got to do better than that. You have to. Well,
okay, defensive front's coming. I didn't see a lot of screens. I saw some sort of inside screens crossing the field, but I mean, there are ways to respond to pressure. And look, I'm not a play caller. I'm not gonna say I have the answers, but I do know that when things aren't working, we have to try alternatives. And I don't know if we've gone deep enough into the bag of tricks. And hopefully against the Bears, I know the Bears, when they've had years where things weren't going their way, would absolutely pull every trick out of the book in the big game. And I'm hoping that we might see some misdirection from Stanford this coming week. We've seen almost none during the entire 2014 season, and I know that may not be the character of this team, but misdirection, some trick plays probably would liven things up a little bit. I mean, after all, you can only do 3 and outs so often.
Yeah, well, misdirection produced both of Stanford's touchdowns tonight. Yeah. So it's not the cure-all. I mean, sooner or later, you have to block somebody, no matter how good they are. If you're going to be a good team, if you're going to succeed, you're going to have to pass when they know you're going to pass. You're going to have to run when they know you're going to run. And neither of those things has happened too often for Stanford this year.
Well, RJ, at the Bootleg, we support Stanford football. We support the Cardinal, and these are great kids. But we hate to have to end our broadcast talking about what great kids we have.
Yes.
This was a disappointment. There is no way to sugarcoat that this was a brutal home loss late in the season with something riding on the game. The quality of the postseason experience, which is what I'm starting to think of as the bowl situation.
Bowl eligibility.
I mean, it's still very much in doubt, and I thought we were going to pretty much rise up and run the table here, and maybe that's the eternal Cardinal optimist in me. But I was surprised that we didn't come out with a little more shock and awe against the Utes tonight. But it didn't happen, and we've been here before, just not in recent years.
Yes, not in recent years, and not in this venue. To struggle in Autzen Stadium or Notre Dame Stadium is one thing, but at home, it's a little bit more. Like you said, something you're not used to.
Well, reach deeply into your refrigerators, pull out that extra beer, find that extra bag of chips, and go for a walk tomorrow. You're not going to wake up and be happy tomorrow. This was just one of those days. So we'll wish the Cardinal luck in preparing for a big game this week. The Bears are still in front of us, and the Bruins as well. I think I'm ready for 2014 to finish. Well, I'm going to say with a flourish. But whether it's with a flourish or not, I'm ready for it to finish.
I definitely would agree, but I will say, going into the off-season, I'd much rather have the axe than not have the axe.
Yes.
So whatever it takes in these next 6 days, the problems of the off-season can wait for the off-season. I think whatever it takes to get this done over the next 6 days certainly would make a huge difference as a fan, and I think for the team as well.
Well, RJ, this is our final home field broadcast of the year. We hope our bootleg fans have enjoyed going over the results of these games with us, and
edit.
We're going to stay loyal, stay true, and look for brighter days.
Yes, and we will be back. We will be in Strawberry Canyon, hopefully with the axe in our possession.
Beat the Bears.
All right, so I'm RJ Abeytia. This is Jim Rutter for the Bootleg Sports Report. Stanford falls 20-17 in overtime. We will talk to you next week from Berkeley.